Hello, I'm Emmanuel. It's a privilege to be part of the assessment for a UX designer position at White Sand. So I would dive straight forward to discuss my design philosophy. Okay, so I'm a big fan of designing with data, and I'm very much focused on designing for users and making digital products accessible to users. And that's one of the greatest thing I advocate for when working in teams and at startups. So answering the first question, what makes my UI interesting or complex? Alright, I'll dive straight into a project which I worked on at my time at Doki Healthcare. So Doki is a healthcare startup that has a mobile app that connects healthcare providers with patients who need healthcare services. So the project I worked with them was an admin software. So this admin software was the problem that we tried to, or we wanted to solve with the product or with the software, was how to easily administer or manage the healthcare providers and the patients. So this is a dashboard. It is a dashboard that we designed, and it contains a lot of data. So at first we really wanted to find a way to simplify this data, and as you can see at the right side of this screen, this section includes the patient statistics as well as the subscribers. And this particular screen, we adopted the best method on how to display necessary information, such as the total patients that are on the on the that are making use of the products, as well as the active and inactive patients. We also added a feature where you could easily find out how the heat map, or how frequent users are on the product. So another aspect that makes my UI interesting is, in this case, this screen contains a list of users. So it's more like a table that contains a lot of data specifically about the user. So this section here, we added a feature that makes it easy to filter through a lot of patients, and there are certain features that are, rather, certain aspects that you could click on how to search for a particular patient. So the next screen here is the patient profile. So here it's just a simple display of all that is within a patient, that is all that is within a patient's profile. You can easily move forward to see the patient's profile, the consultations that the patient had previously had, his prescriptions, medical records, as well as others. Could easily refer the patient to a particular healthcare provider, and in worst cases where the patient may have violated a set of rules, you could also disable the patient. Okay, so the next question here, which I would like to address, is um, what is my preferred design software? Okay, just to clarify, I'm not actually dependent on a particular design software, because design software isn't really the major concept in design, but it's all about using the right tools to accomplish the particular task at hand. But the one I currently use most frequently is Figma, and as you can see in this project, Figma makes it easy for me to set up design systems depending on the project. Taking this for instance, I had to set up a particular style guide that is going to aid the design. As you can see here, first drafted the user flow, of rather the information architecture for the particular product, and here we set up a particular design system and style guide, which made the design you know easy to make across the entire product. So that's about that. Then the next question, what is my workflow when designing a new web app for my client? All right, basically I adopt the standardized design thinking process, which firstly I brainstorm. And for me to brainstorm, I have to first understand the problem that I'm trying to solve for the client, or the problem that the client wants to solve with a particular digital product. So after I must have understood very well from the client, I can move over to make research which would further validate those problems and make it concrete. So in the brainstorming section, if I'm working at a large team or a small team, regardless, we hold I advocate for sessions where we brainstorm and bring several ideas based on how users could find problems at a particular part of a product or particular aspect, and how to solve that problem. So that's what basically the brainstorming session is all about. And then we move over to define it, because there are a lot of problems and a lot of solutions, but you don't solve everything once, you take it one step at a time. So we first define the aspect to start with, most especially from the client's perspective, and then from there we narrow it down to what we are actually trying to solve with that particular product. So after doing that, we now move over to design. Just to mention, in the stage where we define and brainstorm, we still carry out research with target users that were defined by the company's objectives, and we could also move over to get more information from them on what actually their problems are and how best to solve it. So in the design stage, we start off first by making wireframes, and the aim here is just to get a feasible solution that we could build on. Most times it's not a full-fledged design that we start out with, but we first start with wireframe, and then we could test these wireframes with users. We could test these wireframes with users that are already we target users for the product which have already been defined by the company initially, and in the process we could still get information that we could iterate and move back and add more to the wireframes. Then when we get to a stage where we have solid understanding between the users and the problem we are solving, we now move over to high fidelity design. And after the process of making the designs high fidelity, we could now test it further with potential users that were defined by the company in the particular industry we are trying to solve the problem. And after all this, we now set out to launch. So that basically is my workflow when designing a new web app for my client. So just to round up, what sets me apart basically is my high level of perceptivity, because most times when handling clients, you need to be very very perceptive to know where you could actually step in to help the client to accomplish the particular goal that he wants to accomplish, or the particular problem he wants to solve. Another thing to take note is my good approach to handling feedback, because it's very vital when working with clients. You need to be at this stage where you are not biased in your level of thinking or in your level of accepting or handling feedback. So it should be a balance, something between you and your client, in this case the designer. So when a client tends to make necessary feedback concerning a product, you should be at the stage where you understand and then take this feedback and go back to the drawing board and implement it, to continue making the product better and better for the user. So lastly, my collaborative ability also sets me apart, because it's also another thing to take note of when working with clients as well. So basically that's my entire process, and I look forward to getting a favorable response from